You stand up with one perfectly clear mission: go to the kitchen and get something. You cross the doorway, stop, and the mission is gone. Not blurry, gone. So you stare at the room, hoping the missing thought will reload. It feels as if the doorway erased a line from your brain. But doors are not tiny memory-wiping machines. The stranger possibility is that this annoying failure is a side effect of one of memory's most useful tricks: turning a continuous life into separate events. This experience is often called the doorway effect. The popular version goes like this: walking through a door resets your brain, clearing the old room so it can process the new one. That is a satisfying explanation. It is also too simple. First, the thing you forgot was usually an intention, an action you meant to perform in the future. Psychologists call that prospective memory. But most classic doorway experiments did not ask people to remember why they entered a kitchen. They tested whether people could recognize or recall objects they had just encountered. Those are related memory problems, but they are not identical. So the laboratory effect may illuminate your lost kitchen mission without perfectly recreating it. Second, newer experiments show that walking through a doorway does not always make memory worse. Sometimes the measurable effect is small. Sometimes it disappears. And sometimes dividing experience into events can help one kind of memory while hurting another. To understand that paradox, we have to walk through the original experiment. In a 2006 study, participants navigated a simple virtual environment. They picked up an object from a table, carried it through the world, and placed it on another table. Sometimes both tables were in one large room. Other times, the same trip crossed a doorway into a new room. The researchers then tested memory for the object. The important comparison was not moving versus sitting still. It was traveling within one room versus traveling a similar distance across a room boundary. After crossing a doorway, the recently encountered object became harder to access. Later work pushed the idea further. Researchers changed the size of the display, moved the task into real rooms, and even sent participants back to the original room where the object had been encountered. The location updating effect still appeared. Surprisingly, returning to the original room did not reliably restore performance in that experiment. That matters because a simple context explanation would predict a rescue, put someone back where the memory was formed, and the old cues should help. But a doorway may do more than swap the background scenery. It may change the mental structure used to organize what just happened. Reality reaches your senses as a continuous stream. There is no title card announcing that breakfast has ended and the commute has begun. Yet memory does not store life as one unbroken recording. Instead, the mind appears to divide activity into events. A person opens a refrigerator, a conversation changes topic. A character in a story adopts a new goal. A camera cuts to another place. Each change can become an event boundary. Within an event, the brain maintains a working model of what is happening now: where you are, what objects matter, who is present, what the goal is, and what is likely to happen next. This is often called an event model. When the situation changes enough, the model is updated. Information from the previous event is not necessarily destroyed, but it may lose its privileged position in the foreground. Retrieving it can now face more competition from the new event. A doorway is unusually good at signaling this transition. It often predicts a change in place, available objects, possible actions, sights, sounds, and goals, all at the same moment. In that sense, the door is not a delete key. It is punctuation. This event structure is not limited to architecture. In brain imaging studies, people reading or watching narratives spontaneously divide them at moments when the situation changes. Activity briefly shifts across a network of brain regions at boundaries, including areas involved in attention and memory. Other studies find that information from within the same event is often bound together more strongly than information separated by a boundary. Researchers recording individual neurons in people undergoing clinical monitoring have even identified cells that respond around abstract boundaries in a narrative. Those boundary responses were linked to a trade-off. They could support recognition of event content while making the exact order of events harder to remember. This does not mean scientists have found a doorway neuron. They have not. A literal threshold is only one physical cue among many that can tell the brain the situation has changed. And this is where the clean story starts to crack. In 2021, researchers tried to reproduce the doorway effect across 4 experiments. They used immersive virtual reality, passive first-person video, and active movement through real space. In the basic virtual reality task, there was no clear doorway-driven decline in recognition. The researchers then made the task harder by asking participants to count backward while holding information in mind. Under that extra load, crossing a doorway did affect performance, but not in the classic way. Participants did not simply miss more objects they had seen. Instead, they became more likely to say they recognized an object that had not been present. That is a subtle but important distinction. A lower memory score can come from failing to retrieve an old item, or from becoming less certain about which item belongs to which event. The doorway appeared to increase confusion under load, not flush a memory file out of the brain. Across all 4 experiments, the authors concluded that doorways do not always cause forgetting. That conclusion fits everyday life better than the viral version. You cross dozens of thresholds without losing your goal. The embarrassing failures stand out precisely because most crossings are uneventful. The boundary may matter most when your mental workspace is already crowded. You are planning dinner, holding a phone, answering a question, and trying to remember the charger you meant to retrieve. The doorway is one change in a pile of changes. Now for the deeper paradox. If event boundaries make some information harder to retrieve, why would the brain keep creating them? Because memory is not only a list of details, it is also an understanding of what happened. In research published in 2026, people read text either as one continuous event or divided across events. When the material was split, memory was worse for exact wording and for some of the propositions in the text. But memory for the higher-level event model, the situation the text described, was better. A related 2026 study tested lists of words learned in one room or across 2. It found little overall benefit from adding a boundary. A small advantage for words near the boundary appeared under limited conditions and faded after participants passed through more rooms. Together, these results reject both extreme stories. Boundaries are not universally bad for memory, and they are not a magic study technique. Their effect depends on what you are trying to remember: exact details, connections across time, the order of events, or the broader situation. The brain's film editor is making a trade. A cut can weaken continuity across 2 shots, but it can also reveal that a new scene has begun. There is no scientifically established doorway-proof trick. Walking backward, holding your breath, or blaming the doorframe makes for a good story, not a guaranteed memory rescue. Going back to the previous room may sometimes help because sights and actions can cue the original thought. But remember, in one classic experiment, reinstating the room did not reliably repair object memory. Context can help without being an undo button. A more defensible strategy is to strengthen the link between a future cue and the intended action before you move. Instead of carrying the vague goal, charger, form a specific plan. When I reach the bedroom desk, I will pick up the charger. Research on implementation intentions shows that this if-then structure can improve prospective memory in general. That evidence is not a doorway-specific cure, so keep the claim modest. The point is to give the intention a cue that exists in the next event, rather than leaving it attached only to the event you're about to exit. For an important task, an external cue is even less mysterious. Take the empty mug with you, set a reminder, or write the goal down. Memory is a system for organizing experience, not a moral test of whether you were paying enough attention. And occasional doorway blanks are common experiences, not a diagnosis. Frequent or worsening memory problems that disrupt daily life cannot be explained by this effect alone. So, why did the kitchen erase your mission? It probably did not. You formed an intention inside one event. Then movement, a new room, new sensory information, and perhaps several competing thoughts changed the model of what was happening now. The intention lost the foreground. In some conditions, a doorway can contribute to that transition. In others, it does almost nothing. The same system that occasionally strands you in a kitchen also helps separate breakfast from work, one conversation from the next, and one chapter of your life from another. Without boundaries, experience would be continuous, but memory would have no scenes. The door did not delete the thought. It helped start a new event, and for a moment, the old goal got left on the other side.